Chapter 4291. Furthermore, in this heaven realm where experts ran amok, there were experts everywhere. If she didn't have profound energy to protect her, she had to bear the title of the young miss of the Gu residence. There were many people who wanted her dead. She couldn't always hide behind others and rely on their protection. Relying on others, how could he be more reliable than relying on himself? After returning to the Bone residence, the first thing Yiqing Luo did was to make a list and passed it to Gu Yun. Gu Yun glanced over. There were all kinds of miscellaneous herbs that didn't seem to be precious. Since she was young, Gu Yun had also received basic medical knowledge. But when he looked at the list, he saw the rows of names of the herbs. Gu Yun really couldn't tell what effect these herbs had when combined together. However, she didn't ask any further. He immediately went to arrange this matter. When Gu Yun returned, Yiqing Luo immediately asked Gu Yun to rummage through the Gu residence's warehouse to see if there were any better quality pill furnaces. Gu Yun couldn't hold back her curiosity. Young miss wants to refine pills? Yiqing Luo nodded her head. I don't have a lot of medicinal pills on me, so I need to prepare some more in case of emergencies. All the elixirs that she had refined were stored in the profound phoenix ring. The blood-bone barbarian king should also know about the connection between the netherworld phoenix ring and the netherworld dragon ring. She could not establish any connection with the phoenix ring. Not to mention taking things out of the profound phoenix ring. The poison that she poisoned Gong Xiazhu and Rin jamming on the street just now was from the space pocket that she kept on her a long time ago. Normally, he had the profound phoenix ring and the azure dew bracelet to move around. She didn't need a dimensional pocket. The only space pocket she had on her was something that those youngsters in the world group had forced her to bring along. She had always carried it with her and had never opened it to see what was inside. Unexpectedly, in other words, this space pocket. Let her show off for the first time in this heaven realm where experts were as numerous as the clouds. She should thank the brother who forced her to carry the space pocket with her. However, after all, the space in the interspatial pocket wasn't much. It was filled with all sorts of poisons, but most of it was medicine for external and internal injuries. Yiqing Luo had no profound energy now. The only thing that could protect him was poison. He had to refine a higher quality, colorless and odorless poison himself. After all, as the young miss of the Gu residence, the news of her using poison today would spread throughout the entire heaven realm. Other people would definitely be on their guard when interacting with her. The poison in the space pocket was not very useful. Gu Yun quickly went to make arrangements. In the following days, Yiqing Luo squatted in the pill refining room that Gu Yun had specially arranged for her, refining various kinds of poisons. She did not have profound energy, but she had scarlet flame. Qi Yin, who had recovered a third of his beast power, opened his mouth and spat out the flame. Using it to refine pills was much better than using her profound strength to refine pills. On top of that, Gu Yun had arranged for her to purchase the best medicinal ingredients and pill furnaces. The refining process was rather smooth. 5 days later, Yiqing Luo walked out from the pill refining room with an ashen face. Gu Yun, who was always guarding the door, was actually not there. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept across the surroundings. He could vaguely sense that there were 2 people in the dark. It was probably Gu Yi and Gu San. Ever since that day on the streets when she kept Gu Yi's Dark Guard captain's wooden token, these 2 people were still abiding by blood-bone barbaric king's orders, secretly guarding her. But in the dark. Chapter 4292. Previously, when the 2 of them were hiding in the dark, she wouldn't be able to find out at all. Now, even though she was someone without any profound energy, she could still faintly sense their aura. If they didn't do it on purpose. She didn't believe it. But Yiqing Luo didn't bother about those 2. Just as Zhang Xian was about to return to his room to tidy himself up, a voice suddenly rang out. A clamor came from the front. Following that, about 5 to 6 people walked over in unison. The one walking at the front had a solemn expression and was talking to the people behind him in a righteous manner. However, it couldn't stop those people from advancing. Among those few people, Yiqing Luo spotted a familiar figure. Gong Xiazhu. The 5 people behind him were the awe-inspiring middle-aged man and the white-haired old man. Seeing that Gong Xiazhu was among them, the few of them charged forward aggressively. Yiqing Luo also knew that they came with ill intentions. Their pace was extremely fast. He saw Yiqing Luo standing in front. Gu Yun's expression changed slightly as she said something to those few people and hastened her footsteps towards Yiqing Luo. Eldest young miss. What's the matter? Yiqing Luo raised her chin towards those people behind her. Gu Yunma pursed her lips. It's still because of Princess Xiazhu. She quickly told him what had happened in the past few days in a concise and comprehensive manner. It was probably, she had been concocting pills for a few days. Gong Xiazhu had been causing trouble all this time. Using her status as a princess, she forcefully pushed the blame of the cultivator who was crushed to death by Xiong Badian to Yiqing Luo. Then, in front of the emperor, she tearfully complained about her grievances and the face she had lost that day. In addition, there were rumors among the people. The emperor was furious. Then he thoroughly investigated the matter. It was discovered that the second young master of the Gu clan had also been humiliated by the young miss of the Gu clan. Then he joined forces with the Ren family. As a result, a royal family, two clans with profound practitioner forces that had died, and the Ren family were all clamoring for the young lady of the Gu family to give them an explanation. But Yiqing Luo had been refining pills these few days. He refused to meet her at the door. The entire Gu residence would not be able to give them any explanation. Wasn't this looking down on the imperial power? Wasn't this looking down on the other forces? Everyone was enraged. Under Gong Xiazhu's instigation, he was valiant and high-spirited, directly charging in with Gong Xiazhu. Following that was what Yiqing Luo was looking at right now. After Yiqing Luo heard this, she couldn't help but burst out laughing. These people spoke in a dignified manner. What kind of explanation did they want? To put it bluntly, it was just that the imperial family found it hard to accept the Gu mansion's actions in the Heaven Realm. Furthermore, the other factions were more or less respectful and resentful towards the Bone Mansion. This time he was just using it as a pretext to make a fuss. His main purpose was to suppress the Bone Residence's prestige while Bone Lord was not around. Most importantly, he wanted to investigate the background of the young miss of the Bone Residence. As soon as Gu Yun finished speaking, a few people walked over. At the very front, Gong Xiazhu's eyes were filled with viciousness. Her lips curled as she sneered, "First young miss of the Gu clan, long time no see." Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she didn't bother about her. Instead she swept a glance at the few of them. Did this group of people run over to the Gu residence to create trouble? Gong Xiazhu's expression sunk as a sliver of embarrassment flashed past her eyes. That old man standing behind Gong Xiazhu slowly opened his mouth. "Eldest young miss of the Gu residence. Eldest young miss should be clear of our motive for coming here." Chapter 4293. The old man pulled a long face and tried to suppress his anger. "A few days ago, the young lady and Her Royal Highness's battle pet caused the deaths of our young masters." He paused, his voice suddenly rising. "Don't tell me? Eldest miss shouldn't give us an explanation?" When Yiqing Luo heard that, her expression didn't have the slightest change as she shot him a glance with a smile which didn't look like a smile. "Your young master's death, what has it got to do with me? Someone from your family died, and you're asking me for an explanation? Am I your father? No, am I your mother?" His words were like a heavy slap to the old man's face. The old man's face immediately flushed red. His face was ashen. Is this the upbringing of the Gu residents? Upbringing is also for people. Yiqing Luo disagreed. "Do you think you can be considered as human? Why should she be nice to people who came to find trouble with her? Would they stop looking for trouble if he gave them a good attitude?" Yiqing Luo's words directly scolded those few people on the opposite side. The few of them looked at each other with extremely ugly expressions. They had heard that the young miss of the Gu residence had a temper that was not to be trifled with. Moreover, she was extremely arrogant and despotic. After seeing the man, he was even better than the rumors. First young miss of the Gu clan. Gong Xiazhu took a step forward as she looked at Yiqing Luo with a venomous gaze. "The reason why we're here today is merely to seek an explanation for the matter that day. Eldest young miss is so overbearing, could it be that you have a guilty conscience?" Seeing Yiqing Luo, the hatred in her heart surged up. The humiliation she had suffered in Yiqing Luo's hands that day, she wanted to make Yiqing Luo pay back bit by bit. Yiqing Luo glanced at her disapprovingly as her smile was filled with ridicule. "What am I guilty of? As for what happened that day, the onlookers will naturally know. What explanation do I need to give you?" She looked at the others as if she was looking at an idiot. "With just a few words, you managed to incite the representatives of the clan to come to the Bone residence to demand an explanation. Are you all stupid? The people who were treated like fools? Why was this girl so happy to criticize the heavens and the earth? They naturally knew what had happened that day. Since they would represent the clan and follow Gong Xiazhu to the Gu residence, it was impossible for them to do so. Naturally, it was the will of the family. His goal wasn't just for what had happened that day. However, when it came from the mouth of the first miss of the Gu residence, it was as if the first miss of the Gu residence Did that make them fools who could be incited at will? Eldest young miss, since the lords have come, they have naturally investigated thoroughly. You still want to quibble? Gong Xiaozhu sneered. Just the fact that you poison me and Brother Ming is enough for you to pay with your life. He mentioned the word poison. The old man's face darkened even more. Even his eyes revealed a ferocious look that could not be ignored. The others also stared furiously at Yiqing Luo. Shrouded by several pairs of gloomy eyes, the young girl's expression didn't change. Instead, her pink lips curled into a mocking smile. Pay with my life? Yiqing Luo sneered. Then why don't you try? I also want to see how you are going to take my life. Gong Xiaozhu clenched her fists so tightly that her fingertips turned slightly white. Bone Lord is not in the heaven realm. How long do you think you can be arrogant for? Chapter 4294. Who are you calling flustered and exasperated? Gong Xiaozhu couldn't control her own emotions as her fingernails almost broke her palms. Her venomous eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. The unwillingness in her heart spread throughout her chest. Obviously, the young lady was in a sorry state. Her face was covered in dust. On that face, there were patches of black marks which looked extremely comical. The clothes on her were in a mess. Her skirt was stained with dust and charcoal. She looked like a refugee who escaped from the famine. But why, when the young lady smiled and raised her head? Even she felt pressured by that awe-inspiring and oppressive aura. Gong Xiaozhu wasn't willing to admit it. But she had to admit it. The eldest young miss of the Gu residence was born to stand on a high position. Thinking of this, she clenched her fists tightly and tightened her grip. I have nothing to say to you. Yiqing Luo knocked on her sore arm as her entire body was sticky and extremely uncomfortable. Gu Yun, send the guests off. Wasting time with these people. Why not go to the hot spring room to tidy herself up? Eldest young miss. The few of them immediately walked past Gu Yun and stood in a row in front of Yiqing Luo. Eldest young miss, Bone Lord is not in the residence now, so you are the master of the Gu residence. Don't you feel that? Your current actions are bringing shame to the Gu residence? Yiqing Luo's gaze was fixed on the person who spoke. It was a middle-aged man who stood on the right side of Gong Xiaozhu. Looking at his dressing and temperament, he should be someone from some family who was in charge of some small places. As a representative, he was sent to test her bottom line. He could be considered as cannon fodder. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with a teasing smile. Are you lecturing me? Bringing shame to the Gu residence? She wanted to play with the Gu residence till it was ruined, all right? Why would she be afraid of the Gu residence's reputation? The middle-aged man was questioned by Yiqing Luo in a cold tone as his heart trembled as he stuttered. No, I don't dare, I just saw that eldest young miss is young and arrogant, so I reminded eldest young Mississippi. Yiqing Luo sneered. You said it yourself, I am the current master of the Gu residence. I can do whatever I want and it has nothing to do with you. If you don't like my way of doing things, then scram from the Gu residence. The middle-aged man gritted his teeth and raised his hand to point at Yiqing Luo. But as soon as he raised his hand, he gritted his teeth and put it down. You're simply unreasonable. This was no longer a problem that could be explained with the word arrogance. This girl was extremely hostile to all of them. As long as he opened his mouth, he would be unable to defend himself. Gu Yun, who was standing by Yiqing Luo's side, was stunned by this valiant Yiqing Luo. After getting along with each other for some time, Gu Yun also knew that Yiqing Luo wasn't such a flamboyant person. There must be a reason why she was so rude and unforgiving in her words. Gu Yun didn't show any abnormalities either. Gong Xiaozhu's red lips were tightly pursed into a straight line as she said word by word, Eldest young Mrs. Guilty look is rather laughable. Are you that afraid that we will ask about what happened that day? Eldest young Miss kept on changing the topic, showing an impatient attitude to talk to us. Is it because you don't dare to talk to us? The few of them's expressions changed slightly as the way they looked at Yiqing Luo had a subtle change. Chapter 4295. The Gong Xiaozhu they met a few days ago didn't seem to have any brains. The current Gong Xiaozhu actually had a brain? She even knew how to use such a method to create advantageous conditions for herself. If she continued to go against the heavens and earth, refusing to talk to them, this would then prove Gong Xiaozhu's words. If she compromised and was willing to have a good talk, Gong Xiaozhu's motive would be achieved. So no matter if she agreed or not to talk to them, to Gong Xiaozhu this was 100 benefits and no harm at all. Yo, what are you doing? Gong Xiaozhu, who was stared at by Yiqing Luo's naked gaze, felt uncomfortable as her brows creased tightly as she subconsciously raised her hand to block her chest. Yiqing Luo's gaze was simply too naked and scorching hot, as though it was glued onto her body. Through her robe she saw her body. Being stared at by a lady with such a gaze, Gong Xiaozhu felt that it was very strange. Yiqing Luo suddenly grinned as she revealed an evil smile. Since Princess has already said so, looks like we have no choice but to talk. Her gaze swept across as she looked at Gu Yun. Prepare the tea, let's take a look at what they want to discuss with me by creating such a big scene. Gu Yun hesitated as she looked at those few people and then at her own eldest Mississippi. In the end, she bowed and went to prepare the tea and snacks. Yiqing Luo's disheveled appearance was covered in dirt as she walked towards the meeting hall in the other direction. The few of them looked at each other again. Immediately after, they started walking at the same time as they followed behind Yiqing Luo. During this period of time, Yiqing Luo had memorized the geographical location of the Gu residence in her mind. She accurately found the meeting hall as she pushed the door and walked in. There was a solemn and cold atmosphere in the meeting hall. It should have not been used for a long time. But every day there would be servants coming in to clean up. Yiqing Luo sat down directly. Before my patience runs out, quickly say what you want to talk about. The few of them hesitated for a moment. They started to find chairs to sit down. The few middle-aged men's gazes looked towards the elderly man. Apparently they were following the elderly man's lead. The elderly man's face, which was filled with wrinkles, was filled with seriousness and pretentiousness. His brows were tightly knitted into a bundle as his penetrating gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo without blinking. Since eldest miss is willing to talk, I won't beat around the bush, the old man said. He knew that if he beat around the bush, the girl would probably make things even more complicated. Perhaps it was because after a round of insults, nothing could be heard. The elder said bluntly, shouldn't you explain to the Rin family why you poisoned the second young master of the Rin family? This old man was indeed the representative of the Rin clan. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she propped up her chin. Don't you know that your second young master Rin willingly got poisoned? Naturally she could tell the cause of Rin Jiaming's poisoning. In order to get close to her, he didn't hesitate to poison himself and suffer pain. So before Yiqing Luo left, she specially passed the antidote to Rin Jiaming. She didn't want to have any other relationship with Rin Jiaming. In exchange for a bottle of antidote, Gong Xiaozhu would lower her head. But, he had to admit, this Rin Jiaming's willpower was rather strong. That kind of inhuman torture, he could even withstand it. Of course, Yiqing Luo had never felt that the reason why Rin Jiaming did this was because he liked her and admired her. Hence he tried ways and means to get close to her. There was a motive behind this. Chapter 4296. The elderly man was choked by Yiqing Luo's words as his face flushed red again. You lass, you really have no sense of shame at all. Yiqing Luo propped her chin as she put on an innocent look. How am I not ashamed? The elderly man frowned as he knew that in terms of eloquence, he would probably be angered to death by her as he continued. Second young master is our Rin family's glory. Eldest young miss poisoned him without any explanation. Isn't that unreasonable? Gong Xiaozhu, who had been keeping silent, suddenly opened her mouth. Since you said that it was Brother Ming who willingly allowed you to poison him, then you shouldn't have done it in such a vicious manner. Do you know how much pain Brother Ming was in at that time? Brother Ming had never suffered any pain since he was young. It's you who made Brother Ming twitch on the ground in pain. Seeing Brother Ming in this state, how do you expect those onlookers to think of Brother Ming and the Rin family? Her complaints were filled with indignation. In an instant, it made the elderly man's expression stiffen as the gaze he shot at Yiqing Luo turned even colder. Tsk. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but clicked her tongue. When he looked at Gong Xiaozhu, there was a deeper meaning in his eyes. This Gong Xiaozhu was really different now. Even these sounded as though she was feeling injustice for Rin Jiaming, feeling indignant and angry for him. In actual fact, she was indirectly telling the Rin family's elderly that the poison that Rin Jiaming was inflicted with wasn't a small poison. Bearing this in mind, she dragged the Rin family down, saying that it was this lady who caused the Rin family to lose their face. Based on Gong Xiaozhu's intelligence, she actually knew how to say these words? Could it be that she had underestimated Gong Xiaozhu? At such a young age, her heart is already so vicious. It makes me suspect that eldest young miss is trying to take the opportunity to poison Rin family's second young master. The other middle-aged man suddenly stood up at this moment, as he used a suspicious gaze to look at Yiqing Luo, guessing, just like how you poisoned the princess previously, you're trying to take the opportunity to claim the lives of the princess and Ren family's second young master. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes as she spoke impolitely. If I wanted to poison them to death, the both of them wouldn't be alive now. If you poison them, the entire heaven realm will not tolerate you. You were afraid, so you panicked? In the end, you had no choice but to hand over the antidote. The middle-aged man said again. Yiqing Luo was tickled by him. Your imagination ability, even if you were to write a script, no one would be willing to accept it. There's no logic at all. Enough. The old man's brows furrowed even more tightly as he sternly rebuked. The middle-aged man immediately fell silent and shrunk his neck. The elderly pursed his lips tightly as he looked at Yiqing Luo coldly. Eldest young miss, since we've taken the initiative to come here, it's to settle this matter. We don't want to argue with eldest young Mississippi. As he spoke, his expression became increasingly gloomy. It was as if a layer of dark clouds had covered the sky. Regardless of the reason for the poisoning, First Miss has indeed poisoned him and almost killed the second young master. The elderly looked at the rest of the middle-aged men. The other two young masters who were crushed to death by Xiong Badian also died in the battle between you and Princess Xiaozhu. So the two young masters' deaths are definitely related to you. No matter what, eldest young miss should at least give us an explanation for this? When the old man asked his last question, the old man's eyes widened. In the air, an invisible pressure started to spread. Chapter 4297. The elderly and the rest naturally knew that Yiqing Luo didn't have any profound energy on her. Under the pressure of this pressure, without any profound energy to protect her profound heart jade, an ordinary person was not able to withstand this kind of suppression. He intentionally released this kind of suppression. How would Yiqing Luo not know what the elderly was planning? It was merely because Gu Yun wasn't around now. No one could protect her. When the oppressive aura came crashing down, Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as her finger pointed forward gently. A dazzling red glow spread in the air like a flame. Swish. Directly burning in the air. Gong Xiaozhu and the rest were shocked. That dazzling red glow bared its fangs and brandished its claws, following the fluctuation in the air as it attacked towards the elderly's direction. The elderly casually flicked his sleeves as he split that red glow apart. The middle-aged man who was sitting beside him stood up abruptly as he cried out in shock. This is real fire. The elderly casually struck that red glow onto the middle-aged man's body. Instantly the man's sleeves were ignited. The man was so frightened that he immediately fell onto the ground and rolled on the ground before he extinguished the flame. The elderly and the other middle-aged men's expressions instantly turned complicated and grave. They took a look at Yiqing Luo from time to time. Then looking at the middle-aged man who was sprawled on the ground with half of his arm obviously burnt. That was actually a real flame? They thought that it was just the fluctuation of profound qi. Wait a minute. Wasn't the eldest young miss of the Gu residence a waste? There wasn't any fluctuation of profound qi on her. Why? Could it actually resist the imposing aura that he released? The elderly's expression sunk as his face was filled with suspicion and probing. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she took out a blazing red feather fan from somewhere and placed it under her chin, while the other hand was lazily raised towards a certain direction. The slender, white, jade-like lotus root seemed to be plated with a thin layer of white velvet light. She only raised it for a few breaths. Everyone saw a ball of red appearing in their line of sight. That was a red bird the size of 2 palms. The phoenix feathers, which were overflowing with brilliant colors, were sparkling with a dazzling radiance. When it extended its wings, it was like a rolling flame. It was Yiqing Luo's battle pet, which could speak human language. Gong Xiaozhu's eyes immediately lit up. His eyes were fixed on Qi Yan. His eyes were filled with greed. It had only been a few days since they last met. This red bird had already changed into another form. Where was the bird that Zhang Xian had seen previously, the one that was called Trash? This battle pet. Not only did he speak the human language, he even defeated her god-tier combat bear beast. She had to get this bird. Gong Xiaozhu clenched her fists and her eyes flickered. He didn't even try to hide his gaze. Yiqing Luo casually glanced at him and her lips couldn't help but curled into a ridiculing arc. Gong Xiaozhu didn't feel that there was anything wrong with her greed for Qi Yan. A powerful battle pet deserved a powerful master. The first miss of the Gu residence was merely proficient in using poison. But after all, he was just trash without any profound energy. What are you looking at? Look at your bird grandpa with this kind of eyes again. Be careful that I peck your eyes blind. Qi Yan glanced at Gong Xiaozhu disdainfully. The minute he opened his mouth, whatever noble elegance disappeared. Gong Shizhu was frightened by Qi Yan's vicious gaze as she shrunk her neck. But the desire for Qi Yan in her heart grew even more. Qi Yan flapped his tail and fell into Yiqing Luo's palm. Chapter 4298. Yiqing Luo's jade-like fingers gently caressed Qi Yan's body. The jade-like skin blended with that raging flame. Extremely compatible. The elderly's heart was slightly shocked, but he didn't show any expression on his face. Just now. That force which blocked the pressure he released came from that battle pet? Naturally, the old man had heard about the battle pet from Gong Shizhu. But he had not expected that battle pet to be so powerful. Yes, powerful. No wonder, eldest young miss of the Gu residence was so fearless. What? Still planning to stand in the dark and watch the show? Suddenly, a young lady's lazy voice rang in the main hall. Everyone's gazes fell onto the young lady in unison. They didn't understand the meaning of the young lady's words. The young lady's beautiful pink lips curled into an extremely faint cold arc. Her half-squinted eyes seemed to be plated with a piece of elegant afterglow. What's the use of the Gu residence nurturing you two trash? There's already someone looking for trouble with your master and you're still hiding in the corner? What kind of turtle are you? The young lady's voice was clear and pleasant to the ears. But the words she said were bone-chilling. The corners of his mouth were clearly curved into a smile. But between her brows, there was a chill that made one's spine go cold. When the elderly saw this, the expression on his face turned solemn. The gaze he used to look at Yiqing Luo was filled with probing. The others didn't understand what Yiqing Luo was talking about. But they inexplicably heard that she was scolding the people from the Gu residence. This young lady was probably too irritable? Scolding her own people? The few of them were looking around, trying to see who was the person Yiqing Luo was talking about. Moments later, under the young lady's smiling yet not smiling gaze, two figures, one tall and one short, jumped down from the roof. The two of them were dressed in black attire. They could tell that they were the secret guards who were hiding in the dark. Eldest young miss of the Gu residence was scolding these two secret guards? Was she trying to change the topic by criticizing the two secret guards in front of them? Finally willing to come out? Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as she looked at the two of them with a smile yet not a smile. Gu Sanxio's beautiful face twisted. She clenched her teeth and said angrily, "You trash, who are you calling trash? Also, don't think that you can call yourself the master of the Gu clan just because you're the young miss of the Gu clan. In my eyes, only Lord Bone Lord is the real master." Gu San. Hearing Gu San's words, Gu San's face sank, and he immediately shouted to stop Gu San. He stretched out his hand and pulled out a bone 3. However, he was too slow. The middle-aged men sitting beside him all had strange expressions on their faces after hearing Gu San's words. Were these really the secret guards of the Gu residence? As a hidden guard, he actually dared to talk back to the master of the Gu residence? He even dared to insult the master of the Bone Mansion? They all had different expressions on their faces and their eyeballs were rolling non-stop. Could it be the first young miss of the Gu clan was actually not favored in the Gu clan? So, even the hidden guards of the Gu residence could suppress her? This thought immediately caused a certain emotion to surge in the hearts of the few of them. His vision kept shifting between Yiqing Luo and those two secret guards. Facing such a gaze, Yiqing Luo didn't seem to mind, as her expression was extremely indifferent. After hearing Gu San's words, there wasn't any change in her expression. She tilted her head as her expression was languid. Really? In this way you will acknowledge him as your master, right? Chapter 4299. Towards Yiqing Luo, Gu San was filled with unwillingness ever since he first met her. Especially when Bone Lord used the excuse of eldest young miss is a lady and you are the only lady among the secret guards so you can take good care of her, as an excuse to stay by Yiqing Luo's side. She was a secret guard who risked his life. A secret guard who risked his life for Bone Lord. To protect a frail lady who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken? And a frail lady who appeared out of nowhere? Thinking of this, the disdain on Gu San's face deepened. Who do you think you are, trying in vain to usurp Bone Lord's position? Yiqing Luo's gaze swept and fixed onto Gu Yi. You think so too? Gu Yi was stunned as he had not expected Yiqing Luo to suddenly point the spearhead at him. He remained silent for a moment as he grabbed Gu San and said, Bone Lord asked me to protect eldest young miss. I will do my best to protect eldest young Mississippi, the meaning behind his words. He actually agreed with Gu San's words. They were Bone Lord's secret guards. They would only acknowledge Bone Lord as their master. The reason why they were here was merely to comply with Bone Lord's orders. The few of them looked at these two secret guards' gazes as they became even stranger. From the looks of it, this eldest young miss of the Gu residence really wasn't pampered by Bone Lord. The secret guard's attitude explained everything. Could they totally not have any misgivings about Bone Lord? The few of them quietly exchanged glances. From each other's eyes they saw the same answer. This seemed to be a secret exchange of glances. In actual fact, Yiqing Luo had seen everything. But she didn't have any reaction. Only half squinting her eyes, which were flickering brilliantly, the smile on her lips became slightly cold. Protect? But I totally didn't see you guys protecting me at all. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she continued, you two secret guards can't even be compared to this little bird war pet of mine. Tell me, are you all trash? You. Gu San's face flushed red as he clenched his teeth and clenched his fists tightly. Yiqing Luo totally didn't give him a chance to continue speaking as she smiled and ridiculed. Moreover, he asked you to protect me but you disobeyed his orders, so now shouldn't you use your death to atone for your sins? Gu San's face instantly turned pale. Gu Yi's solemn face also had a layer of coldness. The two of them creased their brows tightly as they stared furiously at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo put on an innocent look as she shrugged her shoulders. Am I wrong? Ah, that's right. The old man suddenly laughed and opened his mouth. His murky old eyes were fixed on the two hidden guards. As hidden guards, disobeying the master's orders is indeed a capital crime. The other middle-aged men also echoed, just like the dark guards trained by our family, the dark guards have to do whatever the master says. As a dark guard, they shouldn't have their own emotions. Even if I don't want to accept master's orders, but master's orders, even if I die, I have to complete it. Eldest miss, such a disrespectful dark guard deserves to be killed. As the few of them were talking, their gazes were carefully sizing up Yiqing Luo's expression, as though he was testing Yiqing Luo's bottom line. Gu 1 and Gu 3's expressions alternated between green and white. Both of them clenched their fists and suppressed the anger in their chests. They could not refute that, because what these people said was indeed so. Dark guards were not allowed to have their own emotions, just as the atmosphere was in a deadlock. Chapter 4300. Gu Yun walked briskly into the meeting hall and stood in front of the two secret guards. Gu Yi's expression moved as his eyes fixed on Gu Yun for some time before he slowly lowered his head. Captain, what are you doing here? Gu Yun's expression was cold as she looked at Gu San. That gaze seemed to be reprimanding Gu San with, what are you up to this time? This caused Gu San's emotions to rise explosively. Gu Yun, what right do you have to question me? Don't think that just because you're hugging her thigh, you're really the captain of the secret guards. In my heart, the captain is only Gu Yi. Gu San. Gu Yi tugged Gu San's arm hard, apologized to the captain. Gu San gave a heavy harumph as he turned his head away. Gu Yi still wanted to say something. The girl who was sitting lazily suddenly stood up. In a split second, the entire hall fell into a dead silence. Everyone's vision involuntarily turned towards Yiqing Luo. She was like a natural-born queen. Every move she made was able to attract everyone's attention. There's no need to apologize. Yiqing Luo's indifferent voice revealed a trace of coldness. She gently caressed the phoenix feathers as she lazily raised her eyelids. Gu Yun, as the newly appointed captain. Secret guards disobeying orders, disobeying discipline and offending their superiors, what punishment should they receive? Gu Yun heard the faint anger in Yiqing Luo's tone. She took a look at the pale-faced Gu San and Gu Yi, whose expression wasn't too good, as she pursed her lips and replied, remove the secret guard title and, as a traitor, execute. The punishment of dismemberment by 5 horses. Yiqing Luo raised her hand as her fingers moved lightly, then we'll do it this way. Gu Yun was stunned as her face was filled with hesitation. Her hesitation wasn't because she was concerned about Gu Yi and Gu San, but she was worried if Yiqing Luo's action would cause the other secret guards to retaliate. After all, this Gu Yi had been the captain for 10 years. In the Gu residence's secret guards, most of them were brought up by him. If Yiqing Luo moved Gu Yi during the period when Bone Lord wasn't in the residence, she was worried that those secret guards would explode because of this. Yiqing Luo saw through Gu Yun's thoughts as her lips curled upwards, her smile bright and beautiful. You're now the captain of the secret guards, no need to worry. Gu Yun's expression was complicated, but she still obeyed Yiqing Luo's command as she turned around to look at the two people behind her. Her expression was extremely solemn, without the slightest emotion. Gu San realized that Gu Yun was serious. Her face instantly turned pale and her body trembled with all her might. You can't do this. Gu Jun is not in the residence now. If you dare to touch us, not you guys, it's you. Yi Qing Luo indifferently interrupted her words. Gu San's pupils suddenly widened as he stared venomously at Yi Qing Luo. You dare? You can feel for yourself whether I dare or not. Yi Qing Luo smiled wickedly. Eldest young miss. Gu San frowned as he took a look at Gu San and cupped his fists towards Yi Qing Luo. However, he did not finish his words. The young girl had already decisively interrupted his words. I spared your life because I admire your strength. It's quite a pity for you to die like this. Moreover, you're quite polite. He was demoted from his position as the captain of the Dark Guard. Although he was unwilling, but he still abided by his duty. Towards Gu Yi Qing Luo didn't have much opinion. Her motive was merely to get that annoying female secret guard to death. Why did a woman make things difficult for another woman? Creating trouble time and time again. Chapter 4301. According to her past experiences, Yi Qing Luo expressed that she should directly kill this weirdo. She could save a lot of trouble. No matter how small the mosquito was, it was rather annoying to keep buzzing around. Gu Yi's pleading words were stuck in his throat. Looking at the young lady's languid expression, his lips moved, but one more word and you will die together with her. Yi Qing Luo impatiently interrupted him once again. Gu Yi pursed his lips as his brows creased into a bundle. Finally he kept his mouth shut. Not because he was afraid of death, but he knew clearly that Yi Qing Luo would not change her decision easily. According to what Gu Yun said, it wasn't scary to be dismembered by 5 horses. What was scary was to be stripped of the secret guard's name and to be labeled as a traitor. What the secret guards were most afraid of was to be labeled as a traitor. Gu San had obviously thought of this as well. Seeing that Gu Yi really had no intention to speak, her twisted face turned pale like paper. You can't do this. You have no right to do this. Gu Yun directly went forward and locked Gu San's arm with one hand, and with a backhand, she pressed it behind her back. Gu Yi's body moved as he looked at Gu San, wanting to say something. But his lips squirmed for some time. He still moved away without saying a word. This servant shall take her leave. Gu Yun locked Gu San, bowed towards Yi Qing Luo and left. Yi Qing Luo lazily brushed her hair and sat back on her seat as she gave an insincere smile. I'm so sorry to have let everyone see such a joke. Everyone's faces darkened. It wasn't like earlier when they helped to make Yi Qing Luo teach the 2 secret guards a lesson. That time when they helped, it was merely to create trouble on purpose. They were certain that Yi Qing Luo was a young lady and had just arrived at the Gu residence, so she definitely wouldn't dare to create any huge commotion. It could be seen from the secret guard's attitude towards her. In this Gu residence, there were quite a number of people who weren't convinced by Yi Qing Luo's appearance. But they had not expected. Yi Qing Luo actually directly made Miss Yun take action. Without any hesitation she took action. As though killing a secret guard to her was merely killing an ant. One had to know that from the conversation between Gu Yun and the 2 shadow guards, one could tell that the male secret guard was once the captain of the secret guards, but Yi Qing Luo had forcefully seized his authority. A female dark guard who could follow the dark guard captain naturally had a high level. However, the first miss of the Gu residence had been killed just like that. Could it be that she was not afraid that her actions would be too arrogant and cause the entire Gu residence to be dissatisfied? Everyone carefully sized up Yi Qing Luo's expression. The girl was still as calm and composed as ever. Everyone's hearts were inexplicably on edge. Just now, the young girl's actions, could it be that she was purposely killing the chicken to warn the monkey to take them down a notch? It was an invisible message to them. She, the first miss of the Gu residence, was fearless? Why are all of you staring at me for? Yi Qing Luo sensed their gazes and raised her brows slightly as she looked over. The few of them retracted their gazes in a panic. Their bodies were tense as they sat up straight. Yi Qing Luo? Was she that terrifying? Why did he look at her as if he was looking at a monster? She was a weak wastrel without the strength to even truss a chicken. If Yi Qing Luo knew what those people were thinking in their hearts, she would definitely have a look of disdain and ridicule, expressing that they were thinking too much. She had called Gu 1 and Gu 3 out at this moment, was merely to let these people bear witness. After all, this place wasn't her turf. To kill the Gu residence's secret guards. Chapter 4302. Gu San dared to frown at her, his current master, in front of outsiders. This was enough for her to have an excuse to kill Gu San. Even when others mentioned this matter, They would only say that she was helping the Gu residents to clean up the house. After all, as a secret guard, going against one's superior was a capital offense. By then, even if the barbaric Blood-Bone King asked, she would have an explanation. Surely she couldn't just kill someone else's man for no reason. On the other side, the crowd who had retracted their gazes, after they had done their subconscious actions, regained their senses and couldn't help but gave themselves a tight slap. How could they possibly be afraid of a young lass? How could they possibly meet a young lass's gaze and be scared to this state? Rin family's old man's face sunk as the hand which was hanging on the wooden chair, clenched into a fist shape. Since eldest young Mrs. Private Matter has been settled now, isn't it our turn to settle our accounts? Yiqing Luo found a comfortable position to lean against as one hand propped up her chin, as she squinted at Rin family's old man with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Accounts? I have no accounts to settle with your Rin family. Not waiting for those people to open their mouths, Yiqing Luo had already lazily raised her hand. Her jade-like finger slowly raised up one finger. Number 1, second young master Ren took the initiative to receive my poison. He is a cultivator and I am just an ordinary person. My speed of withdrawing the poison is not as fast as his, so him being poisoned is his own fault. What has it got to do with me? Following that, her gaze directly swept past the stiff Ren family's old man, as she looked towards the other middle-aged men. The second finger was raised. Number 2, the battle pet battle was suggested by Princess. The one who smashed your young master to death is also Princess's battle pet. What has it got to do with me and what has it got to do with my little battle pet? Haven't you seen your young master's corpse? Do you think with my little battle pet's size, it can smash your young master into minced meat? The middle-aged men were choked till they couldn't say a single word. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes with a look of disdain. A bunch of retards trying to find someone to take the blame. Don't use your brains. The middle-aged men. This young lady's mouth really couldn't say anything good. Someone wanted to open his mouth to refute Yiqing Luo. But the minute he recalled Yiqing Luo's indifferent expression earlier, directly asking Miss Yun to drag that secret guard down and execute the punishment of dismemberment, the words that were about to come out from his mouth were swallowed back unfathomably. The atmosphere in the hall immediately fell into a strange silence. A few breaths later, Gong Xiaozhu suddenly raised his head with a livid and hideous expression. His eyes were filled with intense disgust and hatred. Every single word of Eldest Miss is trying to clear her name of responsibility. But, Eldest Miss, have you forgotten that there were at least 100 onlookers that day? If there were only 1 or 2 people who believed that this matter had nothing to do with you, we wouldn't have come to you today. But if over 100 spectators all think that you should take responsibility for what happened that day, then, this proves that whether it is the Ren family or the Zhaoanli families, you have an undeniable responsibility. Gong Xiaozhu said and stood up excitedly. It's a fact that Brother Ming was poisoned, and it's also a fact that he almost fainted from the poison. Xiangbadian smashed the Zhaoanli family's young master because your battle pet used its beast power to flip Xiangbadian, causing Xiangbadian to lose his balance. Chapter 4303. Gong Xiaozhu's voice turned crazier and crazier as her eyes shone with a maniacal glint. Return my Xiangbadian to me. If Xiangbadian disappears, then use your war pet to pay for it. Yiqing Luo. Talking about Xiangbadian at such length in actual fact. The last sentence was the main point, right? Was she still dreaming of her Qi Yan? Did Gong Xiaozhu think that her Qi Yan was so easy to contract? Alright, it seemed that it was rather easy for her to contract Qi Yan. After all, Xiao Qi was there to help. But, even if she contracted Qi Yan, there weren't many people who could get along with Qi Yan. Sigh mentioning Xiao Qi. She missed everyone in the pet space. Alas, she who had no profound energy was unable to form a mental link with the pet space. Luckily, there was a little Qi Yan to accompany her. It allowed her to have a familiar companion by her side in this inexplicable heaven realm. Yiqing Luo played with Qi Yan's wings as her brows slowly rose. Her gaze was calm as she swept a glance at Gong Xiaozhu. Gong Xiaozhu's expression was calm and tranquil. His gaze moved very quickly without much emotion, as though she didn't put Gong Xiaozhu in her eyes at all. The truth was indeed so. After the young lady shifted her gaze, her voice was very languid. Since that's the case, then we can't come to an agreement. Gong Xiaozhu's back, for some reason, seemed to be covered with a layer of frost the moment the young lady's gaze swept past. That cold tone of voice also exuded a terrifying chill. Gong Xiaozhu's heart suddenly tightened. Immediately after, she heard the young lady continued, "If we can't come to an agreement, then please leave." Whatever you want to do, just bring it on. These words were obviously considered as provocation and clamoring. But when the young lady said these words expressionlessly, the few of them felt an indescribable chill in their chest. Gong Xiaoju's body stiffened as her limbs turned icy cold. But she forced herself to look at Yiqing Luo as her voice trembled slightly. Eldest young Mrs. Meaning is. You want to represent the Gu residents to go against the Zhao and Li family, Ren family and the royal family? As she said that, her gaze shot towards the expressionless Gu Yi who was standing by Yiqing Luo's side. Apparently she knew that Gu Yi wasn't convinced by Yiqing Luo wholeheartedly, so she intentionally used the bone manner to provoke Gu Yi. However, Gu Yi was still expressionless and he did not even raise his eyes. Yiqing Luo naturally understood Gong Xiaoju's motive. She sneered and her lazy eyes finally fell on Gong Xiaoju. She smiled and said in a clear voice, "Aren't you tired of passing messages like this? Wouldn't it be more convenient to let the person behind you come out and talk to me face to face?" There was a hint of ridicule in her tone. Gong Xiaoju's face turned pale and she shrank back. What do you mean by that person behind me?" "Princess Xiaoju, with your intelligence, you won't understand." Yiqing Luo didn't even have the desire to answer her. If the person behind you still wants to be a coward, then directly send the guest off. These people could still maintain their composure in front of her, who was covered in dirt. She was covered in dirt and was in a sorry state. But there was no way she could maintain her composure. Not being able to see the person behind Gong Xiaoju, Yiqing Luo couldn't be bothered to waste her bathing time with this bunch of retards. After Yiqing Luo finished her words, she directly stood up and was about to leave the meeting hall. Suddenly, an extremely melodious clear voice was heard from outside the door. "You're indeed the eldest young miss of the Gu residence, indeed intelligent." That was a lady's voice. Chapter 4304. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she looked towards the direction of the voice. The meeting hall's door was opened and a slender figure walked in slowly. The sunlight outside shone on the lady's exquisite beauty, as though it had coated the lady with a layer of fluorescent light. This lady didn't seem like an ordinary lady. She exuded the style of a strong woman from head to toe. Especially that pair of ink-black eyes, which carried the dignity of a superior. Just one look was enough to make one feel respect and awe. Her dressing wasn't ostentatious. Although it wasn't simple, but it wasn't complicated either. One could tell that this was a lady with her own independent thoughts. Yiqing Luo was sizing her up. The lady was also sizing Yiqing Luo up. As both of their gazes intersected, there seemed to be some kind of different sparks in the air. When everyone saw the person, they all stood up abruptly. Ren family's old man bowed respectfully towards that person. "Eldest young Mississippi," the others also greeted her respectfully. "Eldest young Miss Ren." The few of them also greeted her respectfully. "Eldest young Miss Ren." The few of them's voices broke the undercurrent surging between the both of them. Yiqing Luo half squinted her eyes as she revealed a deep meaning. She knew that when she saw Gong Xiaoju a few days ago, she was a big-breasted, brainless idiot. Today, every single word and sentence was on point. It was this lady who taught Gong Xiaoju how to speak behind her back. Ren family's eldest young miss, Ren Jianming's elder sister? Eldest young miss. This form of address really had an extraordinary meaning. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes slowly rose as her lips curled into a faint arc. "Eldest young Miss Ren, right? Since eldest young miss is so curious about me, why don't you do it yourself? Why must you make use of a fool to do it for you?" When she said the word fool, Yiqing Luo's gaze intentionally shot a glance towards Gong Xiaoju. Gong Xiaoju was both angry and anxious. "Who are you calling a fool?" "I'm talking about whoever replied earlier." Yiqing Luo gave a fake smile. Gong Xiaoju's face flushed red as she clenched her fists tightly as her body trembled in anger. "Don't think that you can continue to be arrogant. With sistering around, who do you think you are?" "Xiaoju," the woman spoke and glanced at Gong Xiaoju indifferently. Gong Xiaoju's face turned even redder, but she obediently shut her mouth and lowered her head. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. This young mistress of the Ren family seemed to be something. From the looks of it, compared to Ren Jianming, he was much more formidable. He could even call Gong Xiaoju's name directly. First Miss of the Gu clan. Ren family's eldest young Miss Ren Jianming's beautiful eyes met with Yiqing Luo's, as both of their eyes were probing each other. "I'm only curious, what kind of lady does my arrogant brother fancy?" Yiqing Luo leaned lazily against the back of the chair as her lips curled indifferently. "Sorry, I don't fancy your brother." His words shocked the surrounding people. causing their bodies to stiffen and their scalps to go numb. Did this girl know what she was talking about? Looking down on second young Master Rin? She didn't know how many people and clans in the Heaven Realm were thinking of ways to send their daughters to the Rin clan. He was a cultivation prodigy that only appeared once in 100 years. He was also the person who would become the head of the Rin family in the future. Furthermore, did she know that the person she was facing now was the current head of the Rin family, eldest young Miss Rin? Everyone in the old city knew about it. Chapter 4305. In front of the eldest miss of the Rin family, she said that she didn't fancy the brother she was so proud of. Eldest miss of the Gu residence really had guts. But while everyone was in shock, the girl that they were thinking about was still smiling faintly. Rin Jianying's expression sunk slightly. Do you know who is the person whom you rejected? Not interested to know. Yiqing Luo was indifferent. Eldest miss of the Gu residence, as a person, you need to leave a way out for yourself. Rin Jianying's tone revealed some coercion. Although Bone Lord had brought you back to the Gu residence, but in this Heaven Realm, if you want to adapt, you still need to abide by the Heaven Realm's rules. Yiqing Luo's gaze changed slightly. It wasn't because of Rin Jianying's threat. But Rin Jianying's meaning seemed to be that she knew that she wasn't someone who was in the Heaven Realm right from the start. Did Rin Jianying know that she was brought up from the Earth Realm by the barbaric Bloodbone King? Seeing that Yiqing Luo didn't reply, the stern lines on Rin Jianying's face softened slightly. Eldest miss of the Gu residence is intelligent and has a forthright character. Although you don't have any profound energy, but you are worthy of my Rin family. Since my brother has taken a liking to you, I will respect my brother's foresight. When Bone Lord is back, I will discuss with the Gu residents about our marriage. Yiqing Luo. Why was it that no matter where she went, she couldn't escape the curse of being mysteriously engaged? She rolled her eyes. Since you like your younger brother so much, why don't you just marry him? Why put on an act in front of me? That sentence shocked the surrounding people so much that their spines turned cold as their palms were filled with cold sweat. What on earth was this eldest miss of the Gu residence saying? Actually wanted eldest Miss Rin to marry second young Master Rin? How did she come up with such an earth-shattering idea? Rin Jianying's expression congealed as her expression turned black. Eldest miss of the Gu residence, you can't talk nonsense. Jiaming is my brother. Yiqing Luo crossed her legs as she was smiling, but there wasn't any hint of a smile in her eyes. Anyway, I have no interest in your brother. If you want to find a wife for your brother, go ahead and marry her yourself. Don't drag me into it, I have no time to bother about you. Rin Jianying's expression turned gloomy. She lifted her feet and walked towards Yiqing Luo. With a formless pressure, it poured down in torrents. That exquisite and beautiful face was also filled with a fierce aura. Does the first young miss of the Gu clan really think that the Gu clan can do whatever they want? Her voice was very cold. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as her charming eyes looked at the lady who was getting closer to her, as her expression remained unchanged. I don't know if the Gu residents can cover the sky with one hand, but I know that the Rin family doesn't have that ability. He was just 3 steps away from Yiqing Luo. Rin Jianying suddenly stopped in her tracks. Gu Yi's figure at this instant shifted to the front of Yiqing Luo, blocking in front of her. Rin Jianying's flamboyant and beautiful face was filled with some incomprehensible emotions. I've always heard rumors about the young miss of the Gu clan. Seeing you today, it seems that you're not much different from the rumors. I've finally learned something. Well said, well said. Yiqing Luo replied casually. Chapter 4306. The feather fan in Yiqing Luo's hand swayed slightly and pressed against her alluring pink lips. Return the same words to eldest young Miss Ren, don't cry and beg me when the time comes. Rin Jianying snorted coldly. She straightened her back, raised her chin slightly and walked towards the door. Let's go. The few people who were frozen in place felt their legs go soft. Seeing that Rin Jianying had already walked to the door, he staggered and followed her. Gong Xiazhu walked at the back with a ferocious expression on his face. When she stepped out of the meeting hall's main door, she turned her head around and stared venomously at Yiqing Luo. Very quickly, Gu Yun came forward and turned her head to look at the door while approaching Yiqing Luo with concern. Eldest young miss, are you all right? Do I look like someone who will get into trouble? Yiqing Luo spread out her hands lazily and said with a smile. Gu Yun looked in the direction of the door again. Her expression was a little grave. Eldest miss, why do you think they came here? Probing. Yiqing Luo smiled. Probe? Gu Yun was puzzled. Probe what? They are investigating the background of this eldest young miss who suddenly appeared in the Gu residence. They also want to know what my position in the Gu residence is. Yiqing Luo explained. Gu Yun nodded in understanding. For example, the Bone Mansion was a force that had absolute power in the Heaven Realm. Any random person who appeared beside Bone Lord would be the center of attention in the Heaven Realm. After all, Bone Lord had personally brought her back and announced her identity as the eldest Mississippi. It would definitely cause a sensation in the entire Heaven Realm. Gu Yun suddenly thought of something and her expression changed slightly. Since they are here to investigate the position of the eldest miss in the Gu residence, then Gu San's actions just now, isn't it? Thinking of this, Gu Yun's face instantly turned pale. A hidden guard of the Gu residence had offended his superior in front of outsiders. He did not give the first miss any face at all. If those people spread the news, it was likely that not long later the entire Heaven Realm would think that eldest miss was not favored in the Gu residence. No wonder eldest miss was so angry at that time. Obviously, Bone Monarch doted on eldest miss so much that he even gave the Bone residence's domino plate to eldest miss. Was this not enough to prove that Bone Lord valued eldest miss? Don't worry, eldest Mississippi. I will definitely punish Gu San severely. I will let the Gu residence's secret guards learn a lesson. Gu Yun's eyes became fierce. Gu Yi, who had been standing by Yiqing Luo's side, trembled slightly. However, he maintained a quiet posture with his head lowered and did not say anything. Yiqing Luo's vision lightly fell onto Gu Yi as her tone was indifferent. Do you blame me? Gu Yi went into a blank for a moment before he realized that Yiqing Luo was asking him. His stern and rigid face was somewhat stiff. Was it strange? He couldn't tell what he was feeling. It was not strange. Gu San, who had always been by her side for more than 10 years, was ordered by her to carry the name of a traitor and die. It was strange. What she did was not wrong. Wrong it really was Gu San. He was a secret guard. Shadow guards shouldn't have their own emotions. After a long time, Gu Yi lowered his eyes and said, I don't dare. That is to say, it's weird but it doesn't dare to? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes twitched. Gu Yi maintained his posture of lowering his head as his lips moved, but he didn't know how to explain. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly as she directly walked out of the meeting hall. Chapter 4307. Gu Yi raised his head abruptly. He stared blankly at the young lady's departing figure. In his pupils, there was some kind of emotion surging. He couldn't understand the lady whom Bone Lord had brought back. She obviously had no profound energy, but she lived so wantonly as though she wasn't afraid of anything. She looked vicious and merciless. But in actual fact, whether it was against Princess Xianxia or Gu San, it was all because Princess Xianxia and Gu San took the initiative to provoke her. That was why she retaliated. But to those who treated her well, for example Gu Yun, was repaying with the most sincere kindness. Earlier, that sentence of hers was a reminder to him. Gu San's ending was already decided. After all, many outsiders had seen it. If he helped, he would only become Gu San's accomplice. Her reminder was because earlier when Ren Jianying approached, he blocked in front of her. Yiqing Luo came out of the meeting hall. The first thing she did was to rush into the hot spring room to take a bath, because of the previous incident where Ren Jianying peeped. At this moment, Gu Yun was guarding at the entrance of the hot spring room. Until Yiqing Luo tidied herself up, dressed neatly and walked out of the hot spring room. Gu Yun held a cloak in her hand as she draped it over Yiqing Luo. Eldest miss, what do you want to do next? Do you need me to help you find out Zhao and Li family as well as Ren family's next move? Ever since Yiqing Luo mentioned that the group of them came to the Gu residence to investigate, Gu Yun's heart had been tense because of Gu San's matter. Yiqing Luo sat on the stone bench, allowing Gu Yun to wipe her wet hair as she replied disapprovingly, No need, they can do whatever they want, don't tell me Gu residents can't stop them? Gu Yun's hand paused for a moment. If the Zhao and Li family want to take action on Gu residents naturally can stop them, but there's still the Ren family. She paused for a moment before continuing, Ren family's internal affairs are extremely complicated. Ren family's second young master, although his innate talent is outstanding, but because of his innate talent he was pampered by the Ren family since young. He only thinks about eating, drinking and playing, totally without the temperament of a future patriarch. On the surface, the Ren clan is managed by the Ren clan's clan head. However, in reality the true master of the Ren clan is the Ren clan's eldest young Mississippi. When Yiqing Luo heard that, her originally closed eyes suddenly opened. No wonder, she felt that Ren Jianying had the demeanor of a superior. No matter how one looked at her, she had the demeanor of a strong and valiant woman. Who would have thought that he would actually be this strong? The Ren family's second young master has always been idle, and does not have the slightest interest in inheriting the position of Ren family's family head. Many powers are saying that in the future the Ren family might become the first female family head to be succeeded by a woman. Gu Yun saw that Yi Qing Luo's interest was piqued and continued, "Today Ren family's eldest young miss came over personally. Based on Ren family's eldest young miss character, I'm afraid she won't let this matter rest." Yi Qing Luo touched her lower jaw as her pink lips rose slightly. "Looks like this Ren family is quite fun." A glint flashed across her eyes. Did he have nothing better to do? Did he not have the slightest interest in inheriting the position of patriarch? He wasn't interested. Or did he not dare to be interested? Yi Qing Luo recalled how she looked when she met Ren Jiaming. Between her breathing, she snorted lightly. "Eldest young miss, before Bone Lord returns to the residence if it's possible, it's best to avoid any conflict with the Ren family," Gu Yun reminded. Chapter 4308. But for the past few days Yi Qing Luo was either loitering around the old city streets and alleys or cooped up in the Gu residence. He knew his place and didn't cause any trouble. While Gu Yun heaved a sigh of relief, she also felt a little helpless. Because during this period of time, from time to time, the second young master of the Ren family would enter the Bone residence. From time to time, it would appear in front of Yi Qing Luo. From time to time he would create some romantic surprises. After the commotion in the Gu residence was over, there was a commotion outside. After the commotion outside, the commotion at home began. In any case, everyone in the old city knew that the second young master of the Ren family had taken a liking to the first young lady of the Gu clan. He was thinking of ways and means to pursue the first young lady of the Gu clan. It was also rumored that the first young miss of the Gu family did not like the second young master of the Ren family at all and had righteously rejected the second young master of the Ren family. However, the second young master of the Ren family was shameless and only wanted to win the beauty. This news broke the hearts of all the girls in the old city. They missed the second young master of the Ren family, and they couldn't bear to see him suffer even the slightest bit. However, in front of the first miss of the Gu residence, he had to lower his head and act like a child. His heart ached. As a result, all the young ladies in the old city held deep resentment towards the first miss of the Gu clan. Wherever Yi Qing Luo went, she could feel the sinister wind coming from her back. Yi Qing Luo? Couldn't she reject him even if she didn't like him? Only by rejecting their male idol would they have a chance, right? What was there to hate? "Young miss, where else do you want to go?" Behind him, Ren Jiaming smiled obsequiously. He was carrying all kinds of big bags on his back and many small ones in his hands. Those were all. Ren family's second young master's beautiful excuse, bought for Yi Qing Luo to make her happy. As long as Yi Qing Luo passed by, her eyes would stop on something for a second longer. He bought them all. He was so rich that he had no friends. Yi Qing Luo couldn't be bothered to stop her. In any case, this silly man was stupid and had a lot of money. Yi Qing Luo didn't even bother about him. Ren Jiaming was really annoying when he started pestering people. However, when he became shameless, no matter how he was beaten, scolded, or given a face, he would still come up to them with a smirk. She had even tried using drugs to force him to retreat. Once the effects of the medicine wore off, Ren Jiaming could continue to pester her with a smirk. Yi Qing Luo was really impressed by Ren Jiaming's thick skin. She really didn't know what part of her had caught Ren Jiaming's eyes that were growing on top of her head. She was a trash without any profound energy. Aside from her title as the first young miss of the Gu residence, Gu Ruoyun was not the only one. There didn't seem to be anything that could attract Ren Jiaming, right? However, with Ren Jiaming's status and identity, did he still need to find her, the young miss of the Gu residence, for a marriage alliance? Isn't the wind cloud list going to start soon? Don't you need to cultivate by following me around every day? Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways at Ren Jiaming. It was only half a month away from the wind cloud list. Many high officials, nobles, and the participating profound practitioners were all training madly just to achieve a good result on the wind and cloud list. And this, Ren Jiaming, who had vowed from the very beginning that he would come out on top on the billboard, was following behind her every day, doing nothing. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's question, Ren Jiaming's eyes lit up. His smile was full of flattery and his eyes were bright. "So eldest miss is so concerned about me? So afraid that the person you're going to marry isn't me?" Eldest miss, don't worry, I will definitely be able to get first place on the wind cloud list, and then marry you grandly. Chapter 4309. Even if I don't cultivate, I'll definitely take the top spot on the excellence list. The more Ren Jiaming spoke, the more excited he became. His sparkling eyes blinked as he looked at Yiqing Luo, revealing an affectionate gaze. Even if it's for eldest young miss, this master will also work hard. Yiqing Luo. Get lost. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes. She would only talk to a lunatic if she was sick. Ren Jiaming was a lunatic. However, Ren Jiaming's tone was indeed full of confidence. Was this the difference between a genius and a useless person? The others worked hard, cultivated, trained, and improved themselves time and time again. As for him, he just wandered around here and there. He looked as if he had never cultivated before. However, he was confident that he would be able to obtain the top spot on the wind cloud list. Sigh. There was no point in being envious. If he had talent, that was his own ability. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about Ren Jianming as she continued to wander around the streets. Wherever he went, there would be many onlookers gathering behind him. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about them. During this period of time, Yiqing Luo seemed to be wandering around the streets with nothing to do. In reality, he was trying to figure out the terrain of the old city. In her mind, she could already picture the topography of the old city. She knew exactly what kind of power they were and where they were located. At the same time, he also heard some gossip in the restaurant and learned some news about the major powers in the old city. This would allow him to better grasp information about the heaven realm before the blood-bone barbarian king. In this half a month, Yiqing Luo had yet to destroy the Gu residence. He could not be bothered to instigate the people of the bone residence. Ever since the news of Gu San being dismembered by 5 horses, it had spread throughout the entire Gu residence. Everyone knew that this seemingly gentle and weak young lady was not like what she seemed on the surface. On the contrary, he was extremely arrogant. When he was insolent, he was even scarier than their Lord Bone Sovereign. All of them didn't dare to provoke Yiqing Luo. But after all, Yiqing Luo was an outsider. After Bone Lord brought the person back, he didn't stand by Yiqing Luo's side to announce it in front of everyone. Everyone's attitude towards Yiqing Luo was merely conforming to the norm. Today is the day that the 100 Medicine House is auctioning pills. Suddenly, the snake man behind her opened his mouth in surprise, and in a few steps, he had already jumped in front of Yiqing Luo. Ren Jiaming's face was full of excitement. Eldest miss, let's go. I'll take you to the 100 Medicine House to play. Aren't you an apothecary? There are many rare herbs in the 100 Medicine House. You will definitely be interested in them. Following Ren Jiaming's gaze, Yiqing Luo looked towards a corner not too far away which looked extremely simple and unadorned. At the entrance of the courtyard, there were already 2 long lines. There were men and women, young and old, and it was extremely lively. Yiqing Luo searched for information about the 100 Medicine House in her mind. It was the largest medicinal hall in the entire city, and it seemed that the power behind it was one of the 4 great families. However, no one knew exactly what faction it was. In addition, the 100 Medicine House was in the business of elixirs. Profound practitioners who cultivated basically had a need for elixirs. Buying pills from the 100 Medicine House was more or less giving face to the 100 Medicine House. For a long time, no one dared to cause trouble in the 100 Medicine House. Regarding 100 Medicine House's understanding, Yiqing Luo was only limited to the surface. She really didn't know about the day of the 100 Medicine House's auction. Usually, towards those rare and precious elixirs, Yiqing Luo really wouldn't put it to heart. Chapter 4310. But now, do I have to queue up? Yiqing Luo decisively chose. Go. Who knows, she might really encounter some rare herbs. Ren Jiaming's eyes lit up even more. He spread his feet and rushed towards 100 Medicine House. He threw all the big and small bags that he was carrying onto the apprentice who was guarding the entrance. Following that, he stuffed a bag of crystal stones into the apprentice's hand. Go, 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 send these things to the Gu residence. That apprentice was dumbfounded and only reacted when he saw Yiqing Luo walking over slowly. The apprentice took the crystal stones and left. Ren Jiaming was relaxed as he stared at Yiqing Luo with his burning eyes, putting on a smile which he thought was suave. Eldest miss, follow me and you don't need to queue up wherever you want to go. Saying that, he stretched out his hand towards Yiqing Luo. Eldest miss, I'll bring you in. Yiqing Luo shot a glance at that long queue as the corners of her lips twitched. These people should be here to collect the free medicinal herbs from 100 Medicine House? Along the way, many people were discussing. She heard it all. 100 Medicine House would set up an auction for rare herbs at the beginning of every month, and on the day of the auction, they would also distribute 1,000 sets of medicinal pills or medicinal herbs. The medicinal pills distributed were mostly refined by 100 Medicine House's apprentices. They were some low-grade healing pills or to regulate one's breath, replenish energy, etc. Of course, the medicinal pills which 100 Medicine House distributed were all tested to ensure the medicinal effect and absolute safety. Because of this, many cultivators would run over to collect their medicinal pills. After all, not every cultivator was filthy rich. There were also poor cultivators. Ren Jiaming's pretentious act failed, but there was no trace of embarrassment on his face as he maintained his suave smile and winked at Yiqing Luo. "I can bring you to the VIP seats." Yiqing Luo placed her fan on his face. "Lead the way." "All right." Ren Jiaming was all smiles as he walked in front, leading the way for Yiqing Luo. Ren Jiaming's face was his pass. After entering 100 Medicine House, there was no need for a full body check like the other guests. The two of them directly entered the auction house set up by the 100 Medicine House. There were even apothecaries who came to welcome them. The apothecary arranged seats for them in the first row. This position was directly facing the auction stage, so the view was excellent. Exquisite snacks and tea were placed on both sides of the seats. Ren Jiaming poured a cup of hot tea and passed it to Yiqing Luo in a fawning manner. "Eldest miss, are there many benefits if you follow this young master? As long as you marry this young master, you can also enjoy these benefits." Yiqing Luo received the tea which he passed over and took a sip before rolling her eyes at him. It seemed that, since that time when she had a conflict with Gong Xiazhu on the street and poisoned Ren Jiaming's attitude towards her was even more enthusiastic than before. Could it be that this Ren Jiaming was actually a masochist? He loved the feeling of being abused by her. Was that why he kept pestering her? After all, in the entire heaven realm, it seemed like only she would dare to bully him, right? Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo's gaze towards Ren Jiaming was filled with a peculiar expression. "Brother Ming." Suddenly, a woman's sullen low voice was heard from behind and a slender figure rushed over in quick steps. The woman was dressed in a luxurious palace dress and her dressing was dignified and elegant. But her face was filled with anger. Chapter 43:11. This lady wasn't she Princess Xiazhu? Yiqing Luo looked at the lady's gaze lazily. She sighed silently in her heart. It was indeed a law that couldn't be changed. Auctions were equivalent to creating trouble. It wasn't that she was meddling in other people's affairs. But there were always some retarded people who stretched their faces out for her to slap. Gong Xiazhu clenched her luxurious sleeves and looked at Ren Jiaming affectionately with her beautiful eyes that were covered with exquisite eye makeup. She pouted as she felt wronged. "Brother Ming, didn't you say you don't have time when I invited you to attend 100 Medicine House's auction?" Gong Xiazhu was about to go crazy from anger. Early in the morning, she opened the invitation that Yuing sent to Ren Jiaming. She hoped that Ren Jiaming would accompany her to represent the royal family to attend this auction. Because 100 Medicine House had always been doing good deeds. Every time they auctioned off half of the crystals, they would donate it to various places in Heaven Realm. He wanted to build shelters for all the profound practitioners, give them a place to stay and give them a place to cultivate. The royal family naturally came over to express their gratitude. But Ren Jiaming used the excuse that he didn't have time to reject her invitation. But when he came here, she saw Ren Jiaming attentively serving tea to Yiqing Luo and even gave a fawning smile. Thinking of the rumors that had spread throughout the old city these few days, Gong Xiazhu gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke. She couldn't wait to chop Yiqing Luo into pieces. Her brother Ming should be high up like a celestial being. That slut from Gu residence actually gave brother Ming a hard time. Gong Xiazhu was so angry that her eyes turned red. But towards her inner thoughts, Ren Jiaming apparently had no intention to understand. As his gaze swept over her, his expression became a little more indifferent. His tone of voice was also very indifferent. "That's right. I really don't have the time to accompany the eldest Mississippi, brother Ming." Gong Xiazhu's face turned pale as she stared at him in disbelief. She didn't believe that Ren Jiaming didn't know about her feelings towards him. But he still hurt her heart. It must be that slut from Gu residence who forced him to do so. Gong Xiazhu bit her lower lip as her hands curled into fists. In the end, he angrily flung his sleeves and sat next to Ren Jiaming. Ren Jiaming did not care about Gong Xiazhu's existence. Following that, he looked towards Yiqing Luo as his face resumed his smile. Eldest young miss, if there's anything you fancy, just tell me and I'll buy it for you. Yiqing Luo propped up her chin as her long and narrow eyes wandered between Ren Jianming and Gong Xiazhu with a smile which didn't look like a smile. After Ren Jianming said this, Yi Shiwen's expression changed. Yiqing Luo could obviously feel Gong Xiazhu's venomous gaze falling onto her. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue. I wonder if this brat did it on purpose. He was quite good at attracting hatred. I'm afraid Gong Xiazhu won't let this auction go easily. As expected, everything was as Yiqing Luo had predicted. When the auction of the rare herbs began, as long as her gaze lingered on the auction item for a moment longer, Gong Xiazhu would raise the price. And because she had taken an extra glance, Ren Jianming was determined to get the medicinal ingredients. Therefore, the two of them competed against each other. After a while, when it came to the fifth item, Yiqing Luo took another look at it. The two of them were still competing against each other. Yiqing Luo was always the last to make him give up bidding. Chapter 43:12. Ren Jianming couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to show off in front of the girl he liked. There would always be idiots messing around. His expression turned gloomy as he cast a cold glance at Gong Xiazhu. Princess Xiazhu, when are you going to stop? Gong Xiazhu bit her lower lip, and her exquisite makeup couldn't hide her pale face. She took a deep breath, stubbornly looked into Ren Jianming's eyes, and slightly raised her chin. I like it, so it's naturally mine. You like her? What's the point of you shooting these things? Ren Jianming's tone was full of sarcasm. This was like a slap to Gong Xiazhu's face. Her face alternated between green and white. Her poisonous eyes looked at Ren Jianming with hatred. How do you know that I'm useless? Only the first miss of the Gu residence is allowed to refine pills. Does our imperial family not have any alchemists? This was the first time Ren Jianming had seen such an expression on Gong Xiazhu's face. In his memories when he first met Gong Xiazhu, Gong Xiazhu's eyes were filled with love when she saw him. Ren Jianming did not speak for a while. Yiqing Luo naturally saw this scene. She curled her pink lips into a faint smile, and her meaningful gaze fell on Gong Xiazhu. This Princess Xiazhu, could it be that she had been corrupted? They were stimulated by Ren Jianming. Ren Jianming was even willing to glare at him? Did he hate Ren Jianming? However, this had little to do with her. She didn't care about the development between Ren Jianming and Gong Xiazhu. Yiqing Luo retracted her vision and placed her gaze back onto the auction stage. Compared to the entanglement of love and hate between the two people beside him, those medicinal herbs were more attractive to her. At this moment, a huge stone box was placed on the auction stage. The stone box was made of excellent material. It felt as if water had penetrated through ice. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows slightly. This kind of stone box should be carved from thousand-year-old ice. The medicinal herbs needed to be placed in the millennium frigid ice. Yiqing Luo was intrigued. Her long and narrow eyes narrowed. The shopkeeper of 100 Medicine House slowly opened the wooden box. Inside there was a green plant that seemed to be dripping mist. The branches were roughly as thick as a finger, and there were countless fibrous roots growing out of them. They formed the shape of a mountain, densely packed and intertwined with one another. In the stone box, there were still traces of cold air floating around. In Yiqing Luo's mind, she instantly matched this medicinal herb with one of the contents in the 100-pill refining manual. Illusionary 3 do grasp this herb. She had never seen it in the Nirvana realm. For this herb, the contents of the 100 refinement pill were very simple. High-level medicinal herbs, highly toxic, cleansing the bones and even reviving the dead. Only one function, medicine. As for what kind of medicine it was not made clear. Facing these few lines of words, Yiqing Luo was speechless. If not for the fact that Zhang Shen knew the contents of the 100 refinements pill, he would have believed it to be true. She even suspected that what was written on it might be nonsense. Not only was it highly toxic, but it was also a cleansing method. How could he cleanse his foundation if he was poisoned? Can a highly toxic poison be brought back to life? Wasn't poison supposed to kill with a single touch? Also, why could poison be used as a catalyst? The catalyst for the poison? Just as Yiqing Luo was rubbing her chin, thinking about the real use of the 3 do grass. Suddenly, a voice came from the side. This princess bids 5 million crystal stones. It was Gong Xiazhu. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways, then met with Gong Xiazhu's provocative gaze. So, that fellow saw her staring at the 3 do grass, thinking that she wanted it. Chapter 43:13. Gong Xiazhu felt that snatching the medicinal herb which she had her eyes on was considered as winning her? Wasn't that a little too childish? She could say that from the start till the end, the only thing which piqued her interest was only this stalk of 3-dew grass? 5. 1 million. Ren Jiaming immediately raised his paddle. As he raised his paddle, he leaned his head over and looked at Yiqing Luo. Eldest young miss, you don't need to save money for me. I don't have many other things, but I have a lot of money. If she wants to snatch it, I will compete with her till the end. His voice wasn't soft at all. Gong Xiazhu naturally heard all of this. Whereas at this moment, there was someone else who had bid for the 3-dew grass to 8 million crystal stones. Gong Xiazhu directly raised her paddle. 10 million. 11 million. Ren Jiaming hurriedly raised his paddle. Earlier when Yiqing Luo stopped those medicinal herbs, he didn't continue bidding because he could tell that Yiqing Luo didn't have any special feelings towards those medicinal herbs. But earlier Yiqing Luo had obviously stared at the illusion 3-dew grass for a longer period of time. Moreover, her eyes were filled with curiosity towards the 3-dew grass, something which the goddess liked. He must get it for his goddess. Gong Xiazhu pursed her lips tightly. 15 million. Ren Jiaming didn't increase the bid as he just raised it by 1 million with Gong Xiazhu. The others could tell that the undercurrent between the two of them was surging. No one joined in their bidding. Until Gong Xiazhu shouted out a bid of 25 million. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and pressed Ren Jiaming's hand, which was raising his paddle, as she glanced at him indifferently. There's no need to bid. Ren Jiaming's eyes were fixated on Yiqing Luo's hand, which was pressing on his arm, as his eyes were filled with agitation. His lips curled into a huge smile. He looked a little silly. The goddess took the initiative to hold his hand. Hold his hand. And, agitated, he directly raised his other hand and shouted loudly, 26 million. The goddess took the initiative to hold his hand. How could he let the goddess down? Are you silly? Yiqing Luo released his arm as she glanced sideways at Gong Xiazhu, who was preparing to bid. An indistinct teasing look flashed past her eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sly smile. Without waiting for Ren Jiaming to speak, she then said lightly, that piece of broken grass isn't worth this price. Princess Xiazhu likes to act foolishly, so I'm just cooperating with her. She's a princess of the royal family after all. It's only right for her to do more good deeds. Ren Jiaming stared blankly for a moment. His mind quickly turned. You mean to say, you stared at the medicinal herbs on purpose? Otherwise, why would I stop you? Yiqing Luo raised her brows and asked. Ren Jiaming slowly put down his hand that was holding the signboard. His face was full of disappointment. It was so hard to please the goddess. Was there really nothing that could catch the eye of the goddess? Their positions were very close to Gong Xiazhu. Whatever Yiqing Luo said, Gong Xiazhu naturally heard it all. She stood up in anger. First young miss of the Gu residence, are you playing with me? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes rose as she looked at her lazily. How could it be teasing? Isn't Princess Xiazhu's purpose of coming here to do good deeds for the development of the heaven realm? Gong Xiazhu's expression sunk. The crystals that she had used in this auction had already exceeded the amount of crystals that her imperial father had given her. If there weren't enough crystals, she would have to deduct it from her princess residence. Chapter 43:14. If these losses could make Yiqing Luo suffer, she would feel comfortable spending so many crystal stones. But, Yiqing Luo had purposely tricked her into bidding for medicinal herbs at a high price. How could she be reconciled to this? They couldn't wait to skin Yiqing Luo alive. You did it on purpose. Gong Xiazhu was so angry that her whole body was trembling, and her face was hideous. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but burst out laughing. Am I holding a knife to your neck to force you to bid? Gong Xiazhu was rendered speechless. Princess Xiazhu. The shopkeeper of the 100 Medicine House cautiously said, If Princess Xiazhu still wants to continue bidding, please raise your sign. Princess Xiazhu's current behavior has affected everyone. Gong Xiazhu's face sank. Her eyes were like torches as she glared at the manager. The shopkeeper shrunk his neck. To this arrogant and despotic Princess Xiazhu, the entire old city kept a respectful distance from him. If he could avoid provoking them, he would try his best not to. Yiqing Luo rubbed her chin lazily. Princess Xiazhu must remember that today, you are representing the royal family. Gong Xiazhu wanted to cause trouble. Then it could be said that Gong Xiazhu had received the emperor's decree. which was why she caused trouble in the 100 Medicine House. Gong Xiaozhu naturally did not dare to do so. It was fine for him to be arrogant and willful when he represented his own identity. But the reputation of the royal family was at stake. No matter how much Imperial Father dotes on her, he will still punish her because of this. Gong Xiaozhu returned to her seat angrily. The shopkeeper cautiously glanced at Gong Xiaozhu, then tentatively said, 26 million crystals going once. After shouting, he paused for a moment. Gong Xiaozhu didn't have much of a reaction. Only his face was steely green as he stared unblinkingly at Yiqing Luo's direction. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief and confirm it a second time. Yiqing Luo turned her head towards Gong Xiaozhu as she gave a smile which didn't look like a smile. Isn't Princess Xiaozhu bidding any more? This is the herb that I want. Gong Xiaozhu was so angry that her face trembled. I don't want to. These 5 words were practically squeezed out from between the gaps of her teeth, one word at a time. Previously those messy, unknown medicinal herbs were used by Yiqing Luo in this way, to intentionally cheat her to bid for them. How dare he lie to her now? Yiqing Luo gave a regretful sigh as she shifted her gaze away. Upon seeing this, Gong Xiaozhu was even more determined in her thoughts. The third confirmation was the final word. Ren Jiaming won the illusionary 3-dew grass with a price of 26 million crystal stones. When the next auction item was brought up, Yiqing Luo slowly got up. Let's go. Ren Jiaming was still immersed in the depression of not being able to please the goddess. Then you can continue to stay here. Yiqing Luo didn't even turn her head back. Miss, don't you want to continue looking at the rest of the herbs? There will definitely be something that will interest you. Ren Jiaming hurriedly followed. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards, the corners of her eyes curved upwards, outlining a seductive poppy. What I want, you have already bought it. What do you mean? Before he could say West, Ren Jiaming seemed to have thought of something. You're talking about that illusion 3-dew grass? Yes. Yiqing Luo nodded with a smile. That's a good thing, you definitely won't lose out. This young master will give it to you. Ren Jiaming's face was filled with joy as he immediately took the crystal stones and ran over to exchange for the 3-dew grass which he had bid for. Their conversation was heard clearly by Gong Xiaozhu, who was sitting by the side. Her expression instantly turned steely green. She abruptly stood up and pointed at Yiqing Luo. Her voice was filled with hatred. You. Chapter 43:15. Good. Gong Xiaozhu clenched her teeth tightly, as though this was the only way to maintain her emotions. Her malevolent face was totally unable to adjust. Yiqing Luo smiled like a flower. I'm naturally very well, but Princess Xiaozhu should have suffered a heavy loss today, so she won't be able to recover. Gong Xiaozhu's entire body was trembling slightly, as though her eyes were about to spit out fire. She couldn't suppress the hatred in her heart towards the young lady in front of her. Yiqing Luo didn't care. When she raised her eyes, she saw Ren Jiaming carrying the stone box which contained the 3-dew grass, as he walked over excitedly. She walked past Gong Xiaozhu, as she headed towards the entrance of the auction venue. Ren Jiaming hurriedly followed up. Not even a corner of his eyes swept towards Gong Xiaozhu, until the 2 figures disappeared at the entrance. Gong Xiaozhu's body seemed to have lost all her energy as she sat weakly on the seat. That sinister and twisted face that was covered in the rain was bursting with the most vicious anger. No one dared to look towards Gong Xiaozhu's direction. Among the people present, there was no lack of prominent people. Their actions weren't because they were afraid of Gong Xiaozhu, but trouble. They didn't want to get into this kind of trouble. After walking out of 100 Medicinal House, Ren Jiaming followed behind Yiqing Luo as he passed the stone box to her. Eldest miss, this is for you. Yiqing Luo didn't receive it. After a few steps, she suddenly halted her footsteps. Ren Jiaming hurriedly halted his footsteps, as he smiled and leaned in front of her. The man's handsome face was filled with a fawning look, as his eyes started to sparkle. Yiqing Luo looked at him fixedly for some time. If it wasn't for the fact that her emotions were very mild, and her gaze was also very mild, Ren Jiaming might even think that she was beginning to fall for his handsomeness and elegance. But her gaze apparently wasn't sinking into it. After staring for a long time, Yiqing Luo frowned as she asked calmly, "What do you want to do?" Ren Jiaming looked at her blankly with a puzzled look. "Say your real motive." Yiqing Luo didn't beat around the bush. Ren Jiaming scratched his head as though he didn't understand. My real motive? What motive? If you don't say it, you won't have the chance to say it in future. Yiqing Luo didn't want to talk nonsense with him as she turned around and left. Ren Jiaming's eyes sunk slightly as he speedily shifted towards Yiqing Luo, blocking her in front. There was no longer the fawning and flattering expression on his face. On his handsome face, his gaze was a little deep. Are you going to say it? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. How did you find out? Ren Jiaming looked into her eyes with curiosity. I thought I acted well. Eyes. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as her lips curled slightly. The way you look at me from the first time you saw me, it's totally different. It was as if he had become another person. When Ren Jiaming first met her, the way he looked at her was obviously filled with intense interest, but it was not disgusting. But the second time they met, there was obviously a slight change in him. His eyes were filled with the desire to possess her. Yes, possessive. It was a possessive desire to let her belong to him alone. But there was no love in this possessiveness. After that, Ren Jiaming began to pester her, as though he really fell deeply in love with her. He was wholeheartedly thinking of marrying her. So he kept pestering her and followed behind her. Fawning, acting dumb. Yiqing Luo didn't believe that just a few meetings could make a man be dead set on her, and even change because of her. She didn't believe it. Chapter 43:16. Ren Jiaming looked at her silently. After a long time, his chest shook as he laughed out loud. Eldest young miss of the Gu residence, I realize that I'm really liking you more and more. As he said that, his body suddenly got closer to Yiqing Luo. That handsome face was magnified in Yiqing Luo's pupils from a close distance. He grinned as his smile was filled with some evilness. Just like that, he got close to her ear as he muttered softly, "This sentence is from my heart." The unfamiliar man's breath seeped into her nostrils. Yiqing Luo frowned as she speedily took a step back, leaving the encirclement of Ren Jiaming's masculine breath. She didn't like her body to be tainted with any man other than Xian's scent. She couldn't stand any man other than Xian's scent. Yiqing Luo's action made Ren Jiaming spread his arms wide as he laughed. Eldest young miss, be my Ren family's mistress. As long as you're willing. In this heaven realm, whatever you want, I can do it for you. The gaze which he stared at Yiqing Luo was filled with greed towards his prey. This was Ren Jiaming's real face. Yiqing Luo met his overbearing gaze, but there wasn't any emotion on her face. Then do you know what I want? Gu residence? Ren family? Or Lord of Heaven realm? Ren Jiaming spat out every single word, which was enough to make most cultivators go crazy. His gaze was locked onto Yiqing Luo's face, not wanting to miss any change in her emotions. But on that young lady's exquisite face, there wasn't any hint of greed or yearning. That pair of eyes, which were as bright as stars, was filled with calmness and indifference. Like nothing could arouse her interest. After Ren Jiaming's words landed, the atmosphere froze for a moment. The two of them didn't speak again. After a moment of silence, a young lady's calm voice rang. Before discussing terms with me, second young Master Ren had better investigate clearly what I want. Her pink lips curled slightly, curving into ridicule and disdain. Tightly she turned around and left. Yiqing Luo had just taken a few steps when Ren Jiaming's voice was heard from behind. Eldest young miss, I only want you to help me save someone. As long as you're willing, whatever you want, I can give it to you. Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks and turned around to look at him. Save people? If even you, second young Master Ren, can't save someone, then I, a good-for-nothing with no Xian energy, can't even save him. Only you can. Ren Jiaming's eyes were resolute as he said, if it wasn't for the fact that I had no other choice, I wouldn't have taken the risk to find someone I don't even know. Yiqing Luo raised her brows, the smile on her lips was very casual. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I'm good at killing people, but I really don't know how to save people. With that, she left without hesitation. Ren Jiaming didn't follow them. The Ren family had such a complicated relationship, and Yiqing Luo didn't want to be dragged into it to turn into a big drama. She was someone that Ren Jiaming wanted to save. Must be a troublesome person. She did not hear Gu Yun use the word save when it came to the Ren family or anyone's situation. However, Ren Jiaming would rather look for a stranger like her. He was also unwilling to seek help from the Ren family. Just the thought of it was troublesome. Yiqing Luo pouted her lips. She didn't want to get involved in this mess. Chapter 43:17. Eldest young miss, why? Is second young Master Ren not around today? Recently, Ren Jiaming had been sticking to her eldest young Miss's side shamelessly and she couldn't chase him away. Today he actually let eldest young Miss come back alone. Could it be that the both of them had a quarrel? Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and hooked Gu Yun's shoulder as she leaned close to her and gave a naughty smile. Little Gu Yun, you seem to value second young Master Ren very much. Are you disappointed that you didn't see him today? Gu Yun's body stiffened as her face revealed a shocked expression, as her facial features revealed resistance. Eldest young Miss, this joke is not funny. How could I possibly value that kind of silk pants? She hurriedly explained, I just felt strange and asked out of curiosity. I absolutely have no improper thoughts towards second young Master Ren. Looking at the lady's anxious and shy look, Yiqing Luo burst out laughing. She pinched Gu Yun's face and said with a smile, I'm just joking. That second young Master Ren. I've already told him clearly. If there's nothing wrong with his brain he probably won't bother me anymore. Hence the next morning. Yiqing Luo finished washing up and followed Gu Yun to the main hall for breakfast. She saw something wrong with his brain. Jinming. Yiqing Luo, this fellow was really a lingering spirit. What on earth was he trying to do? She seemed to have made it very clear yesterday, right? Still not willing to give up? Master Ren, why are you here again? Gu Yun stood in front of Yiqing Luo, guarding against Ren Jiaming's approach like a wolf. Ren Jiaming's eyes were burning as he stared at Yiqing Luo, as his eyes were filled with smiles. Eldest young Miss is my fiancée, why can't I come to see her? Master Ren, please conduct yourself with dignity. Gu Yun frowned slightly. Master Ren's actions and words have already affected eldest young Mississippi. Ren Jiaming's gaze went past Gu Yun and fell onto Yiqing Luo. His smile was the same as the flattery and fawning over the past few days. His eyes were filled with deep affection towards Yiqing Luo. Eldest young Miss, where do you want to go today? I'll accompany you. Yiqing Luo lifted her eyes slightly and met Ren Jiaming's eyes. She stretched out her hand and placed it on Gu Yun's shoulder. You can leave first. Gu Yun looked at Yiqing Luo worriedly and looked at Ren Jiaming vigilantly. Didn't First Mistress say yesterday that young Master Ren wouldn't bother her anymore? Something must have happened between young Master Ren and eldest Miss for her to say that. But now, young Master Ren was pestering eldest Miss again. Gu Yun seriously suspected that young Master Ren wanted to harm young Miss. Don't worry, there's still Gui around. Yiqing Luo knew what Gu Yun was worried about as she patted her shoulder. This girl that the barbaric Blood-Bone King had arranged for her, his wariness and hostility towards Ren Jiaming were very strong. It was unknown just what Ren Jiaming had done in the Gu residence previously. Gu Yun hesitated for a moment. Under Yiqing Luo's insistence, he left the house first. Yiqing Luo walked directly to the dining table and sat down, minding her own business as she started to eat her breakfast. He didn't even spare Ren Jiaming a glance. Ren Jiaming followed Yiqing Luo and sat beside her. He originally thought that Yiqing Luo would ask Gu Yun to leave to have a good talk with him. But after Gu Yun left, Yiqing Luo seemed as though she couldn't see him at all. Chapter 43:18. Eldest young Miss, I hope you can consider my suggestion last night. His tone was somewhat solemn. The expression on his face turned serious in an instant. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes and looked at the hand on her arm. Second young Master Ren, have you forgotten not to touch me casually? Her voice just fell. Ren Jiaming's hand suddenly felt like it was pricked by a needle. He retracted his hand abruptly. His entire palm had already turned jet black. The prickling pain of the needle spread through his palm. His hand trembled in pain and his brows knitted tightly. Yiqing Luo continued to eat her breakfast without any change in expression. Eldest young Miss, I am serious. Ren Jiaming was panting as he spoke. He couldn't help sucking in cold air due to the piercing pain in his palm. But he still looked at Yiqing Luo and continued, You are a pharmacist, only you can save him. No matter what Ren Jiaming said. Yiqing Luo ate her food calmly. Until she was full and put down her chopsticks, she raised her head lightly. Second young Master Ren, I am a pharmacist, but that doesn't mean I can save people. Looking at the entire heaven realm, it's easy to find a high-level pharmacist with your family's power. Yes. I really don't know if you can save him. Ren Jiaming lowered his head and pursed his thin lips. But this is the only chance. Ren Jiaming suddenly stood up and fixed his eyes on Yiqing Luo. I can't beat the grass and alert the snake. I don't trust anyone in heaven realm, only you. His hands slowly clenched into fists. One by one he squeezed tightly, as if he had completely ignored his poisoned right hand. You don't trust the people in Heaven Realm, but trust an outsider like me? Yiqing Luo snorted lightly. Aren't you afraid that I am the most dangerous person? Afraid. Ren Jiaming was very honest. But I want to take a gamble. Betting on you is my only chance. Yiqing Luo's words had just opened her mouth. Only a plop sound was heard. Ren Jiaming knelt down heavily. He knelt in front of Yiqing Luo, with an unprecedented serious expression on his face. Eldest young miss, as a sign of sincerity, I can tell you some things that I can tell you. Yiqing Luo stood up, avoiding the direction where Ren Jiaming was kneeling. Her expression was still very indifferent. Her gaze on Ren Jiaming was so indifferent that no one could tell what she was thinking. Don't tell me, I don't want to know. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. It's just an accident that I'm here, and I don't intend to implicate too many complicated things. Ren Jiaming did not dare to look for a pharmacist in the Heaven Realm. He did not dare to spread the news of the person he had saved. That person's identity in the Heaven Realm must be very complicated. It was also very likely that it involved the entire Heaven Realm. She still had self-awareness. She knew that with her strength in the Heaven Realm, she wouldn't be able to make a big splash. Not to mention now, she who had lost her profound energy. That was under the condition of recovering profound strength. She also didn't want to cause any complicated disputes and battles in the Heaven Realm. It was too troublesome. It was also too dangerous. Yiqing Luo answered very decisively without any hesitation. Second young Master Ren, you should go back. His footsteps had just stepped over the threshold. Chapter 43:19. This low growl successfully stopped Yiqing Luo's footsteps. She turned around and looked at Ren Jiaming. What do you mean? Half a month later, on the wind cloud list, someone will take action and invade the Heaven Realm. Ren Jiaming was still kneeling on the ground. His voice was filled with suppressed pain. Only by saving that person can heaven be saved. How did you know that there would be a calamity in the Heaven Realm? Yiqing Luo's gaze shot straight towards Ren Jiaming, containing some sharpness. Ren Jiaming pursed his lips. As for the reason, I cannot tell you right now. However, everything I have said is the truth. The Heaven Realm has been targeted by a mysterious force. The other party will use the opportunity of the wind cloud list to create chaos. For some unknown reason, the moment Ren Jiaming mentioned the mysterious force, Yiqing Luo's first reaction was to think of 3 words. Dark, dark palace. Only the rats from the dark palace were hiding in the dark. That was why they were always looking for opportunities to create chaos. In the Nirvana realm, it was the same in the land. Now, was the other party eyeing the Heaven Realm? If the mysterious force that Ren Jiaming was talking about was really the Palace of Darkness, this step-by-step operation, the true goal of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was to control the 3 realms. How ambitious. No, that's not right. If the power of the secluded Darkness Palace had already infiltrated into the Heaven Realm, that, with how stubborn the Palace of Gloomy Shadows was towards her, after learning of her existence, the Palace of Gloomy Darkness should have come looking for them. Especially now when she didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. However, she had been wandering in the Heaven Realm for half a month. He did not see any traces of the Dark Abyss Palace. Eldest young miss, even if it's not for the Heaven Realm, you wouldn't be willing to see the Gu residence fall, right? Seeing Yiqing Luo not speaking for a long time, Ren Jiaming started to play the emotional card. To tell the truth, I really don't care if the bone residence falls or not. Yiqing Luo crossed her arms as she walked back into the room. She returned to her seat and sat down. Who is the person you want me to save? Why do you say that only by saving that person can the Heaven Realm be saved? She had to confirm it first. Was that mysterious force on the side of the Dark Palace? Seeing Yiqing Luo walking back and returning to her seat, Ren Jianming's face revealed an excited smile. But when he heard Yiqing Luo's question, his smile slowly froze. His expression was somewhat complicated. Yiqing Luo could tell that he was conflicted. He wanted her to save that man. But subconsciously he couldn't believe her. Yiqing Luo wasn't in a hurry to interrogate him. You want me to save someone, but you want me to not even know who I want to save. The expression on Ren Jiaming's face changed slightly. He clenched his fists again, struggling internally. After some time, as though he had finally made up his mind, he abruptly raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo, saying word by word, I hope that the person you save is Miss Ren, young Master Ren is here. Suddenly, a servant's voice came from outside. Miss Ren? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes. Ren Jianying? Why was she here? Just as Ren Jianying was guided by the servants, they arrived at the room which Yiqing Luo was in. Ren Jianying, who was kneeling on the ground, moved, and in a blink of an eye, he sat on the seat opposite Yiqing Luo. The expression on his face was no longer solemn and serious. But there was a sliver of what he thought to be elegant and suave, an incomparably confident smile. His entire imposing manner became extremely relaxed. Chapter 43:20. Ren Jianying had already walked in. Her gaze fell onto Ren Jianying. Her penetrating gaze swept past Yiqing Luo and Ren Jianying, as though she was trying to confirm something. Elder sister, why are you here? Ren Jianying stood up as his face was filled with disdain. Ren Jianying slowly walked towards him as her beautiful face revealed a hint of coldness. Jianying, have you caused enough trouble these few days? Ren Jianying pushed away Ren Jianying's hand with a mischievous look and bypassed her. What trouble did I cause? You're the second young master of the Ren family, following behind a woman all day long. Where's your sense of propriety? Ren Jianying intentionally shot a glance towards Yiqing Luo's direction as she spoke. That gaze seemed to be saying that Yiqing Luo was a femme fatale. Ren Jianying's expression sunk instantly. His tall body blocked in front of Yiqing Luo, blocking Ren Jianying's gaze. He revealed an unhappy expression. Elder sister, eldest miss is my fiancée. I like eldest miss, don't always go against her. What fiancé? Nothing has even been decided yet. Ren Jianying sneered and continued in a resentful tone. In the entire old city, there are countless women who want to marry you. Why do you need to be so persistent with a woman who doesn't even put you in her heart? Those people are not eldest Mississippi. Ren Jianying stubbornly raised his chin. I only want eldest miss. Ren Jianying was slightly flustered as she flicked her sleeves and retreated away from Ren Jianying. Good. Now I can't control you anymore? Alright, if you want to be with this woman, then don't go back to the Ren family. Elder sister. Ren Jianying was flustered. Since young, you've always liked to control me. Now, even if I like someone, you want to control me too. Ren Jianying's expression was cold as she didn't have any intention of being moved. This woman isn't suitable for you. Either follow me back to the Ren family or you can live with this woman. I want to see, after losing the identity of the Ren family's second young master, if she will still allow you to pester her. Big sister, why do you have to force me? Ren Jianying was so angry that his whole body was trembling. His face was livid and his eyes were red. It was as if the emotions that had been suppressed for a long time were on the verge of exploding at this moment. He looked like a rebellious child who was being forced by his elders. Ren Jianying's expression did not change. She looked at Ren Jianying quietly with her beautiful eyes. There seemed to be no room for discussion. Ren Jianying pursed his lips tightly and his eyes were red. He glared at Ren Jianying with resentment and unwillingness, unwilling to compromise. The siblings seemed to be at loggerheads. No one was willing to be the first to speak and take half a step back. Yiqing Luo's gaze wandered between the two of them for a moment. Her crimson lips curled up slightly. Miss Ren's desire to control her own brother is really strong. Could it be that my joke that day is really true? Miss Ren wants to marry your own brother, so you're doing everything possible to control him so that he only belongs to you? She paused and covered her mouth in surprise. She looked Ren Jianying up and down in shock. I didn't expect Miss Ren to be such a person. You're so scary. Oh, your ghost. Ren Jianying was so infuriated by Yiqing Luo's shocking words that her expression changed. You're tuning in to the Sword Dance in the Vast Sky YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.